Friends, over the past 6 years, you and I have driven many SUVs together. We've driven slow SUVs and we've driven fast SUVs. We've driven them on-road and we've driven them off-road. But we have yet to drive one with a porcelain roundel attached to it. Now I feel it's high time we change that. But we can't drive just any BMW SUV that's going to turn up at some nondescript, snooty private school somewhere in suburbia. No, what we need to do is drive one where Munich has decided to fit go-fast parts for the occasion. So now how does one go about making a hot rod out of an SUV? Well, the first step is really no different than any other hot rod, and that's adding more power. So the BMW engineers, they kind of basically took the ubiquitous 3-liter inline 6, and this one has a turbocharger, and slapped it into the X4. Now, there's a couple of interesting things that they've done here. Now, this one is 355 horsepower, which comes in at 5,800 RPM. But you and I, we're always more excited about torque, but the people who drive these things, forget about the ones that want hot rod SUVs, the people who drive an SUV, they want torque that's more usable. So in this case, they've got 343 pound-feet of torque, but it comes in an almost comically low 1,250 RPM and stays flat all the way up to 5,250 RPM. I don't think I've actually seen that flat of a torque curve. So really, take that much power and that much pulling power, how does that translate out to the road? So this is the first BMW SUV you and I are driving together on camera, and I would say it's a damn good place to start because it's not the biggest of SUVs, but more importantly, it has the go-fast sort of hot rod engine in it. And like most German cars nowadays, it's got this dynamic control system that changes all the mappings here. So I think we should put our foot into it, and we'll start in the blah, boring mode, and this is called Eco Pro. I don't know what the hell the Pro is on the Eco thing, so let's come around this turn, and let's come out of turn, put our foot into it, and it actually pulls. I didn't quite see that coming. Wow. I guess that's the Pro part. Pro equals pull. So now let's go to a different mode. There is actually a comfort mode. So this changes the throttle mapping again, and let's see if there's much of a difference. Now these roads back here, this is just to give you an idea, this is just outside of Monterey County here, and really stunning. Come around this turn, let's put our foot into it, come out of the turn, and wow, it actually pulls too. Now granted, I don't really feel a huge difference between this and Eco Pro. Now before we get to the fancy modes here, I do want to point something out. This 3,960 pounds. Not exactly a lightweight, but then again, it is an SUV, but not exactly a lightweight, and we have to kind of weigh that against the extra power. So knowing that, let's go into sport mode. So notice I give you the red graphics here to make sure you know that something's happening, people. So let's put our foot into this thing, and wow, yeah, it definitely changes. And we've got a couple of twisties. We'll get to driving dynamics later, and I would say that the throttle mapping definitely changes, and it holds the gears longer. Wow, okay. So this is an interesting trick I'm noticing here. As I've spent a little time driving this, especially in the Sport, and now let's you and I go together to the Sport Plus, where you get more red in the graphics here, put our foot into it again. Yeah, it's a little bit sharper in the throttle here. But the thing that I noticed, I can't help but thinking the old Panamera trick, and if you've been watching the show for a while, you've seen me talk about the Panameras, and there's this trick where they hide 1,000 pounds. So, if someone from Porsche was sitting in the passenger seat with you in a Panamera, and they were to tell you after you drive the car, oh, by the way, this thing weighs 4,500 pounds, you wouldn't believe them, because you'd swear they're hiding 1,000 pounds somewhere. And especially in the Sport and the Sport Plus modes, you feel like the engine is hiding. There's a trick where it's hiding that 960 pounds because you feel like it's a smaller, lighter car, at least from a pulling power perspective, not so much driving dynamics. So it's funny, these cars generally are relegated to a life of grocery getting. There's a honey-do list. Even if a guy were to buy something like this, he's given that list to go to the grocery store or wherever to pick up stuff. Well, if you're going to turn one of these things into a hot rod, there is also a grocery list, so let's go through it. Number 1, Michelin Cup Sport tires. Number 2, firmer springs. Number 3, they take the bushings out completely, throw them away, and put in stiffer bushings. The control arm bearings are stiffened. There are adjustable dampers. And then, if that were not enough, the front brakes come out of the larger X5. That is really quite a list of stuff from the engineering superstore, wherever they go and shop for these things. So how does that all translate to the roads of Monterey County? So driving dynamics in SUVs, not exactly the best combo there, especially when you have roads like this. You know, a little bit behind the scenes, I'm shooting this the same day as we're shooting the M2, so I've got M2 Gusto and Laguna Seca on the brain. So here, we needed to change it up, and for no other reason than these are daily drivers. Even the hot rod version is going to be a daily driver. So we need to find roads that, yeah, we have curves, we're looking for turns, but we're also looking for non-perfection. We're looking for some undulations, some elevation changes, and some broken pavement to see if we can disturb the plane of motion with all these changes in the bits that affect driving dynamics. Got it? So yeah, we've got this dynamic control system we were playing around with pulling power. So let's start out in the Eco Pro, and now we're getting into some nice twisties over here. So let's downshift, let's go around, nice sweeper, and yeah, there's definitely some lean back there. It's there. You look back there. It's not lean to the side. It's like a little body roll onto the rear wheel. Now, granted, this is the Eco Pro mode. Let's go to comfort mode, and this is where we probably have most of the trouble. There's a piece of broken pavement. Let's pick up the speed here. Go around this turn a little bit faster than normal, and I gotta say, this is where you still, I'm not seeing a difference. Like with the pulling power, I'm not seeing a huge difference between this and the Eco Pro. I'm thinking that Eco Pro is more about the HVAC system and that kind of stuff. We'll have to talk to the engineers about that. So now that we got the two boring ones out of the way, let's switch to sport. And we get the red graphic again. Let's put our foot into it and go around now. A tighter turn on a tighter stretch of the road. Please don't try this at home. Definitely more control. There's still a hint of roll in the rear, but it's so mitigated by this dynamic control system and what they've done with the adjustable dampers. Actually a significant difference now that I'm playing around with it a bit more. Now, an interesting side note, put aside that roll in the rear, notice the road, again, not perfect, broken pavement, undulations, that kind of stuff, not really disturbed that much. Yeah, this is, you're not gonna sell your mother on driving one of these things. It's too stiff as the suspension, especially in this mode, for your mother. But for people like you and I, it's much more controlled in this mode. This would be the base mode for car guys or car girls like you and I, rather than dealing in Eco Pro or in the comfort mode, simply by virtue of how it's got more composure over roads like this. Again, non-perfect roads. With that, let's go to Sport Plus and have more fun with this. And we got a tighter turn. Okay, yeah, that, you know what you notice more? Almost no body links. It's like a minuscule % difference, improvement in the body roll in the back, but it's really the steering. The steering is so much more precise in this Sport Plus mode. And now let's pick it up again on some more broken pavement. You get more communication through the steering when you're in this mode as well. Again, let's push it through here, and wow. This is a 3,960-pound car that I am throwing through some backcountry roads. And, you know, I guess that's why they say, Freude am Fahren. So in many previous episodes of the show where we're dealing with an all-wheel drive performance car or kind of like SUV kind of thing, we always spend a lot of time focusing on, well, how much of the power is going to the rear wheels? And I tried to get an answer about this because they had they flew a ton of engineers here from Munich, and there really is no answer, really, because this is a constantly adjustable system. They did say it is a rear drive bias, so the system is designed to send more power to the rear wheels, but there are a number of input points that constantly adjust where the power is going. Now, other than that, what are some of the other changes between an X4 and an X4 M40? And really, you got to get down low, and there is something called ferric gray. You look at the front spoiler, the mirrors, and the wheels, they are all in a single shade of ferric gray. Okay, you and I need to do something very difficult right now, and that is put aside the hot rod engine, put aside all the uprated driving dynamics bits from the people at the M group of BMW, and talk about what this thing is really going to do in life, and that is, it's a baby buggy. A very fancy one, but a baby buggy. So that means we got to focus on the interior. And as of late, you and I have spent a lot of time focusing on like the build quality, especially in that Cadillac episode and the Mercedes episodes, and then the newest integrations of not just your phone, but information inside of a vehicle, how it's balanced between the OEM UX and the UX of, say, your device, whether it's iOS or Android. God help you if you're on BlackBerry at this point, because there's no solution. Anyway, number one, being here, you immediately, it's a nice place to be. Granted, it's a very dark place to be. Like, I wouldn't have spec'd this car in this color. The white with the black interior are terrible. Like, I talked to you guys about contrast, how you need contrast in cars. But this one, especially in an SUV that's smaller, you want to open up the interior more, so a dark color is not really, at least I think, the way to go. Especially I would want the Sheepdog, so it would open up and give you more airiness as well in addition to a color. But even putting aside the color, you can tell much higher grades of build materials here. Like, you immediately like, yeah, this is definitely a nice car. Then there's like little detail bits they do here. Like, they've got the contrast stitching, and this is for the M performance group. Like, remember, this is the middle, the modus operandi here is it's the middle of the line. It's like, it's not the X4, but it's not like an M2, 3, 4, 5. So it's giving you the middle performance, but they still want to like show you some pageantry with a nicer steering wheel and the contrast stitching on the steering wheel and the seats. Now, this is where kind of BMW, I think, needs some help, because I think Audi and Mercedes are doing a better job. Even like Cadillac, those guys are doing a better job here of integrating infotainment and information. Now, BMW, if you remember, these guys were the first ones doing this integrated controller, and they took a lot of crap for it. Now, it's at the point where it actually works. It's, you know, it's no longer a bad product. It's a product that actually is something you can spend some time getting to know, and you can navigate through the car. But it's not the intuitive masterpiece that is that Audi TT and the coming virtual cockpit, which will cascade throughout the line. Or even on the Cadillac side of things, yeah, people give Q a lot of crap, but now they've improved it. But really what's happening there is you're getting Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is completely taking over those solutions. So now where does that leave BMW? I would say in this like in-between space. Like, you look at the Audi we just talked about, or now this new E-Class, which has taken the S-Class infotainment system and taken it to a completely different level. They are, I would say, and I've said this term before, they're in the next 50 years of UX as it comes to OEM integration in cars, okay? Now, yeah, there is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I feel will take over some or all of this, but look what BMW has done consciously. They've kept hard buttons. And how many times have I talked about that cars like Cadillacs, yeah, they got the trackpad now and a faster processor, but they still need the hard buttons for no other reason. Look at this. We're going around this beautiful, like, home on the range here, going around a turn. Granted, not so fast, but I don't want to look for a trackpad or this unified controller to have my eye over here. I want to look at the road and just get instantaneous feedback, the same I've gotten for the past, like, 50, 100 years, whatever it is, driving a car, where you don't need to fool with this down here. Or let me put this another way. I have friends that would be the target customer for this car. They have kids. And if you watch their young kids play with like an iPad, it's incredibly intuitive at, what, 4 years old on how they're able to work with that thing. When you get in some of these cars with the unified controllers, it's not intuitive. Even with a trackpad, it's not intuitive. Where the combination of the newer design of these UXs coming from OEMs like Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Cadillac, with the hard buttons, this is intuitive for drivers, because at the end of the day, a 4-year-old's not driving these things, but this is intuitive for a driver, and frankly, I feel significantly safer to have the combo of the hard buttons. So while this needs improvement, this needs to stay. So in summary, what do we got? Well, we definitely have a hot rod version of an SUV, but it's kind of a different formula, because you and I, over the past, I want to say, 10 months, we've looked at a lot of hot rod SUVs. It started with that GLE 63S we drove back in Österreich, and frankly, that's just a bonkers vehicle, totally different segment than this, so there's really no comparison. But this is like balance, or I guess a cooler heads prevailing when it comes to building a hot rod out of an SUV, and frankly, because it's built from a car platform. You know, this is really built off of the 3 platform, and it brings up an incredible question. Yes, this is a balanced vehicle, and you'd expect that from a company like BMW, but BMW, I feel like they have perfected this art of making niche cars on larger platforms, like the 3-4 platform. They make a 3 sedan, a 3 wagon, a 3 GT, and now this X4. So really, yes, this is a balanced SUV, but I have to turn the question around to you guys. Are they slicing and dicing the platform too much, making it too granular? Like you and I go on and on about, I want this derivation of Porsche that isn't made, or this derivation of Mercedes that isn't made. But BMW, they go in the opposite direction. So my question is this: is BMW too many niche cars, or are they making something just right? Let me know why you think that is the case, or why not you think that is the case, and give me some substantiation to your answer, yes or no, and this is why I support my decision. Let me know in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with 2 things. Number 1, make sure you download our fancy new mobile application from Apple iTunes or Google Play. And number 2, if you have not seen it yet, you need to check out our M2 First Drive Review episode, which, if you couldn't hear in the background, there's cars screaming around a racetrack. It's not these cars, it's the M2. So make sure you check out that episode, because we had an incredibly good day at the office with the M2.